Everyone told you PCP rifles were the only serious option. They told you multi-pumps were for kids in the backyard, for squirrel hunters who could not afford a real setup, for guys who did not know any better. Here is the truth. They were wrong. 2026 just changed the game entirely. The multi-pump is back, and not the rickety, knuckle-busting pumpers your grandfather wrestled with. We are talking butterfly linkages, auto-indexing rotary mags, and precision steel breeches that rival European spring guns costing 3 times the price. 10 rifles, 1 ranking, 0 marketing fluff. By the time we hit number 1, you are going to question every piece of gear advice you have ever been given. Let's get into it. Number 10. Benjamin 397. Look, you cannot talk about where we are going without understanding where we came from. The 397 is the grandfather of American multi-pump pneumatics. Its roots trace all the way back to the 1949 Sheridan Model C Silver Streak, an impact valve design so indestructible that gunsmiths are still rebuilding them today. The brass compression tube laughs at internal corrosion like nothing synthetic ever could. And here is what made that design so smart. Every time you pulled the trigger, every last cubic inch of pressurized air exhausted completely. The valve self-cleared every single cycle. No moisture buildup, no residual pressure stress on the seals. That is why these guns outlived the men who bought them. Trigger breaks like a ceramic floor tile, snapping clean, sharp, defined, zero mush. Fires with a hollow metallic crack, not quiet, not loud, just honest. But here is the flaw that finally buried it. That barrel was permanently soldered to the pump tube. Mount a modern optic, and the pumping leverage, cycle after cycle, would pry the barrel clean off its solder joint. Catastrophic. Irreparable, unacceptable, discontinued in the early 2020s, a legend, but a dead one. Number 9, Benjamin 392S, same bloodline as the 397, different caliber, same fatal ending. The 392 ran .22 caliber, and in that bore size, it was genuinely dangerous to small game. Squirrels, rabbits, starlings, anything inside 40 yards was in serious trouble. The synthetic Monte Carlo stock on the S variant was a real upgrade. Lighter, weather-resistant, actually comfortable to run in the field. What made it interesting was the variable power curve built directly into the pump count. 2 pumps gets you around 650 feet per second. 6 pumps pushes 850. Max out at 10, and you are touching 1,100 with alloy. That scaling is genuinely useful. Dial it down for the range. Dial it up for the back 40. Trigger breaks like a dry saltine cracker. A little more give than the 397, but clean enough to trust. Fires with a sharp, compressed pop, like a staple gun hitting concrete. But that pump arm had 0 mechanical advantage. No cam assist. Nothing. By pump 8, you are white-knuckling it, leveraging your whole body weight just to close the action. Sustained shooting turns into a workout nobody signed up for. Same soldered barrel problem as a 397. Same discontinued fate. Different caliber. Identical coffin. Number 8. Daisy Powerline 880. Honestly, this thing has no business being this good for $50. The 880 has been on American shelves for decades and it is not going anywhere. $50. Rifled steel barrel, 800 feet per second at max pump. Runs BBs from a 50-round gravity reservoir or single loads .177 pellets. Dual ammo at the absolute floor of the market. What keeps it competitive? is that rifled steel barrel doing serious work inside a mostly plastic package. The rifling imparts gyroscopic spin stabilization on every Diabolo pellet, and even surrounded by injection-molded everything, that barrel consistently punches groups that embarrass rifles twice the price. Trigger breaks like a rubber band stretched to its limit, not crisp, but consistent. Fires with a soft, muffled thump, almost apologetic, like it knows it is the cheapest gun on the list. Here is the air quirk that drives experienced shooters absolutely crazy though. Loading a pellet into this breech requires an engineering degree. The receiver geometry chokes the loading port so severely that you are fishing a tiny lead pellet into a dark hole with your fingernail, or a bent straw, or actual tweezers. Every single shot. That friction point alone is why the rotary mag revolution happened. Still, $50. Still here, still relevant. Number 7, Daisy 901. Now let's be real. This is the 880 in a suit. Same internal power plant, same rifled steel barrel, same 50-round BB reservoir, same 800 feet per second ceiling. Daisy dressed it up with a more contoured synthetic stock, a smoother pump stroke feel, and a slightly cleaner sight picture out of the box. If the 880 is a work truck, the 901 is the same truck with a wax job and new floor mats. That pump arm runs the same fixed fulcrum geometry as its sibling. The pivot pin never moves, which means every additional stroke demands exponentially more force to overcome rising chamber pressure. No cam assist, no dynamic linkage. Pure old-school mechanical leverage, and your forearms pay the price past pump 6. Trigger breaks like a stiff plastic zip tie, a little more resistance than the 880. Snaps at the same point every time. Firing report is nearly identical, a short, suppressed bark like someone snapping a thick rubber glove. Here is the financial reality though. The 901 consistently retails $10 to $15 more than the 880. For that premium, you get cosmetic refinements and zero functional upgrades. The breech loading nightmare is identical. The pump fatigue curve is identical. If you are spending more than $50 in this tier, that money needs to go somewhere else on this list. Same skeleton. Not worth the markup. I know the traditional firearm crowd is going to roll their eyes at a lever-action airgun with a plastic stock, but stay with me because this thing just pulled a modular trick that nobody saw coming. Number 6, Barra 1866, Gen 2, $70, lever action, and it looks like something John Wayne would have carried. The 1866 replicates the silhouette of a Winchester lever action with a 20-inch octagonal barrel sleeve, electroplated gold or silver receiver, and enough heft at 5.8 pounds to feel like a real firearm in your hands. Here is the engineering move that makes this thing work. That lever arm is the pump mechanism. Seneca buried the entire pneumatic power plant inside the cast iron lever, preserving every aesthetic line of a classic repeater while delivering 800 feet per second at 10 pumps. Genius packaging. Trigger breaks like a vintage typewriter key. Deliberate, mechanical, satisfying. Fires with a crisp, hollow clack like a pool cue striking dead center. Gen 2 added a dovetail rail and widened the loading groove. Smart upgrades driven straight from consumer feedback. But here is the reliability caveat worth knowing before you buy. The base model ships as a smoothbore, and a smoothbore barrel cannot stabilize a Diabolo pellet past 10 yards. You must purchase the drop-in rifled barrel conversion kit separately to unlock real accuracy. Factor that cost into your budget up front, because out of the box, the pellet performance is not there. The modularity is genuinely impressive. The factory accuracy is genuinely not. Rank 5, Crosman Vapor Max. This is the most controversial gun on the list, and that is saying something. The Vapor Max showed up at SHOT Show 2025, swinging hard. Dual 10-round auto-indexing rotary magazines, advertised 1,100 feet per second. Street price under $100. On paper, it sounds like the Dragonfly Mk2 for half the money. Here is the deal. It is not even close. That 1,100 feet per second claim is technically achievable with ultralight alloy pellets. But push a Diabolo into the transonic zone and aerodynamic shock waves form around the head and skirt simultaneously. And because Diabolo pellets rely on drag stabilization, not gyroscopic spin, those shock waves rip stability completely apart mid-flight. The real sweet spot is 5 to 6 pumps with standard lead, landing around 900 feet per second. Subsonic, stable, half-inch groups at 15 yards. That is the version of this gun that actually works, but the build quality will test your patience. A significant percentage of units ship with poorly machined barrel crowns, and a bad crown lets pressurized gas escape asymmetrically at the muzzle, destroying accuracy before the pellet clears the rifle. The receiver flex is real. The action wobbles in the chassis if the factory did not torque those stock screws properly. This is a solid disruptor, but wait until you see the absolute precision machine sitting at number 1, the gun that makes the Vapor Max look like a rough draft. Rank 4, Seneca Aspen, the most brilliant failure in the history of multi-pump pneumatics. The concept is genuinely stunning. A fully self-contained PCP rifle with an integrated onboard pump. No external tank, no compressor. Fill it yourself in the field. Shoot a 10-round rotary mag at 900 plus feet per second, then pump it back up and go again. The secret to its ballistic performance was a true regulated reservoir running at 3,600 pounds per square inch. That regulator delivered consistent shot-to-shot pressure, 17 regulated shots per fill, minute of angle groups at 45 yards. Genuinely impressive architecture. Trigger breaks like a precision door latch engaging. Controlled, smooth, almost mechanical luxury. Fires with a deep, authoritative thud, like a heavy book dropped flat on a hardwood floor. But thermodynamics does not care about impressive architecture. Pumping ambient air to 3,600 pounds per square inch generates severe adiabatic heat inside the compression chamber. Pump fast, which every shooter does in the field, and that thermal load melts the internal O-rings and polyurethane seals outright. The pump rod binds, pressure bleeds out, and because the Aspen retains its air like a true PCP, moisture from ambient air accumulates inside with no bleed valve to purge it. Internal corrosion follows. Valve seizure follows that. Brilliant concept, unsustainable execution, largely discontinued by 2026. Rank 3, Crosman 362. No rotary mag, no butterfly linkage, no marketing budget, just a .22 caliber bolt action that quietly handles business. The 362 stepped directly into the void left by the discontinued Benjamin 392 and did not flinch. Compact at under 36 inches, light at 4.5 pounds, rugged synthetic stock that genuinely does not care what weather you throw at it. At maximum compression, 8 to 10 pumps, this rifle pushes standard lead to 700 feet per second and alloy up to 850. That generates 13 to 17 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. That is the ethical small game threshold. Squirrels and rabbits inside 40 yards are not walking away from a well-placed shot. It is not glamorous math. It is effective math. Trigger breaks like a fresh pencil snapping over a desk edge, abrupt, clean, zero warning. Fires with a sharp, compressed crack like a heavy staple punching through thick cardboard. But the ergonomics will remind you this is a budget gun. Single shot only. Every round means manually opening the bolt, seating a pellet, closing the bolt, then pumping. In the field, that process gets old fast. No magazine option from the factory whatsoever. The aftermarket fixes it. The factory does not. Rank 2, Crosman CR2023, limited edition, $400, Turkish walnut stock, brass trigger blade, brass crossbolt safety, brass bolt handle. This is not a budget pumper wearing a costume. This is a precision instrument that happens to run on air. Crosman spent their 100th anniversary fixing something that should have been fixed decades ago. For years, every Crosman bolt action shipped with a recessed screw, part 1322 B027, sitting directly in the floor of the pellet loading channel. Every time the bolt pushed a pellet forward, that soft lead skirt caught the sharp screw recess. Deformed skirt, broken air seal, ruined accuracy. The CR2023 eliminated that screw entirely from the loading path. The pellet glides from trough to rifling completely untouched. Combined with a factory-milled steel breech and superior barrel crowning, the standard deviation on shot groups drops dramatically. Trigger breaks like a Swiss watch crown clicking into position. Precise, deliberate, zero creep, and zero surprise. Fires with a refined, contained snap like a mousetrap springing inside a wooden box. Here is the financial reality though. $400 for a single-shot .22 pumper is a hard conversation. The Dragonfly Mk2 feeds 9 rounds faster, costs 60% less, and covers more ground in the field. The CR2023 is the Perfectionist pumper, but perfection has a price. Rank 1, Seneca Dragonfly Mk2. Everything else on this list is a compromise. This is not. The Dragonfly Mk2 is the gun that finally answered the question every serious multi-pump shooter has been asking for 50 years. Why does pumping have to destroy you before you ever pull the trigger? Seneca answered it with the butterfly system. And this is the most important engineering story on this entire list. Traditional pump arms run a fixed fulcrum. Fixed fulcrum means exponential resistance. By pump 8 on a Benjamin 392, you are fighting the gun. By pump 10 on a Vapor Max, smaller shooters are done. The butterfly linkage physically shifts the fulcrum point dynamically throughout the entire compression stroke. The resistance curve goes from exponential to linear. Pump 15 feels identical to pump 1, validated across over 1,170 consecutive strokes. That is not marketing, that is documented empirical testing. 9-round auto-indexing rotary magazine, refined bolt action, rifled steel barrel pushing 840 feet per second, minute of angle accuracy out to 50 yards, range that belonged exclusively to PCP rifles 18 months ago. The trigger breaks like a glass rod under controlled pressure, gradual tension, then a clean, silent separation. Fires with a whisper-sharp hiss, like air escaping a sealed thermos. Composed, deadly quiet. Now, one thing worth knowing before your first session. Those butterfly linkage screws will back out under sustained harmonic vibration. Thread lock every pump screw and the stock screw before you ever fire a shot. Blue Loctite only, never red. Do that once and this rifle runs indefinitely. Synthetic stock version hits $159.99. Hardwood at $229.99. The CR2023 is more refined. The 362 is more affordable. But nothing on this list, nothing, delivers this combination of mechanical innovation, magazine feeding, and field-ready ballistics at anywhere near this price. The Dragonfly Mk2 is the multi-pump air rifle of 2026. Full stop. There you have it, 10 multi-pump air rifles. One honest ranking, the pumper is not dead. It never was. The industry just forgot to engineer it properly for 50 years, Seneca remembered. If this list saved you from burning money on inflated velocity claims and plastic receivers that wobble out of the box, hit that subscribe button. Every video on this channel is built the same way. No brand deals, no sponsored rankings, no fluff. You now know what separates the serious shooters from the guys still reading marketing catalogs.